From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Thursday morning. It's 5:30. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thanks for starting your day with us.
We're off and running. Rob Griggs in for Ed McIntosh for a couple of days, and we're enjoying the fact that we're going to have a warm day today. The downside, of course, is that's playing into the red flag fire warning.
Dry.
Very, very dry. Too dry outside. On the high end, we've got light air quality out there in terms of it being good to moderate. We'll take it either way. The haze just is not going anywhere, so don't expect the skies, I don't think, to really clear up nicely anytime soon. There'll always be some of that haze because there's so much smoke in the atmosphere right now from the western U.S. 71 last time we looked outside, that's not a typo, 71 degrees. Wow. That's pretty darn nice for this morning, especially with partially clear skies, west winds 17 miles an hour. And our headlines, the wildfire risk is here with red flag fire warnings all the way from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. today. Low relative humidity, gusty winds, hot temperatures across the plains. Tomorrow and Saturday, cooler, a bit windy. Sunday, we'll call it sunny and mild, but it might be breezy. Here's the map showing the red flag fire warnings in effect here today across most of Montana, except for the west, as well as for western Wyoming. They get a pass. The Billings area today, we're looking for sunshine, some clouds. We're going to top out around 84 degrees. The wind right now looks to be the biggest problem for like folks in Livingston, where we'll see wind gusts in the 50-mile-an-hour range. And we will see at times gusty winds as that cold front advances into the area later on today. For the Billings area, we're calling for sustained winds of anywhere from maybe 15 to 20 miles an hour. We could see some higher gusts at times. We just have to kind of be careful about fire danger. It's just so dry out there, like you were saying. We've got to be very careful.
Yeah, it won't take much to have something just take off on us.
Exactly. Yeah, get out of hand quick.
All right, Rob. Well, thank you so much for that update. I will get on with the day's news.
All righty.
Thanks. Our top story this morning, protests have ramped up in Kentucky and across the nation after just one police officer was charged in the shooting of Breonna Taylor, but not for her death. In Louisville last night, 2 police officers were shot amid the demonstrations. Yesterday, a grand jury voted 2 of the 3 officers present the night of her death would not be charged at all. The other, Brett Hankinson, is charged for firing shots into the homes of Taylor's neighbors. The Kentucky Attorney General says while people may disagree with the decision, the investigation reviewed all the available evidence. Today, the body of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg will lie in repose for one more day outside the Supreme Court. Yesterday, thousands passed by to say their goodbyes, including former President Bill Clinton, who nominated her in 1993. CBS's Laura Podesta reports on the nomination fight to replace her on the Supreme Court.
Ruth is gone, and we grieve.
From the Great Hall of the Supreme Court, the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg was celebrated as a vision of the American dream.
And it is the rare prophet who not only imagines a new world, but also makes that new world a reality in her lifetime.
She was not an opera star, but she found her stage right behind me in our courtroom. There she won famous victories that helped move our nation closer to equal justice under law.
More than 100 former law clerks during her 27 years as a justice stood outside as her casket was brought to the ceremony with friends and family. Mourners of all ages lined up to say farewell.
I feel it's important to come here and thank this incredible woman for the long fight.
President Trump and the First Lady are expected to come pay their respects today. Tomorrow, Justice Ginsburg will be moved to the U.S. Capitol to become the first woman to lie in state there.
The scam will be before the United States Supreme Court.
At the White House, President Trump defended moving quickly to fill Ginsburg's seat, arguing a close election could be decided by the court.
And I think having a 4-4 situation is not a good situation.
Later, the president wouldn't commit to a peaceful transfer of power if he loses.
Well, we're going to have to see what happens.
Former Vice President Joe Biden looked exasperated when told.
I don't know what to say about it, but it does surprise me.
President Trump is expected to name his nominee on Saturday. Laura Podesta, CBS News, Washington.
The two candidates will face off in the first debate on Tuesday. The Food and Drug Administration is thinking about stricter guidelines before authorizing a COVID-19 vaccine. That's not sitting well with President Trump. Yesterday, the head of the FDA said the agency will not permit any pressure from anyone and won't approve a vaccine if it doesn't pass its safety checks. But President Trump says he has faith in the research underway and says the sooner a vaccine is available, the better.
When they come back and they say that we have something that works and absolutely works, and they're coming back with great numbers and statistics and tests and everything else that they have to come back with, I don't see any reason why it should be delayed further.
Meanwhile, members of the White House Coronavirus Task Force testified on Capitol Hill the same day Johnson & Johnson announced the beginning of a phase 3 clinical trial of its one-dose coronavirus vaccine. CBS's Daniel Backus brings us the latest.
A day after flags were placed at the Washington Monument to represent the 200,000 lives lost to COVID-19, the nation's top infectious disease expert expressed cautious optimism.
We feel strongly that if we have a combination of adherence to the public health measures together with a vaccine that will be distributed to people in this country and worldwide, we may be able to turn around this terrible pandemic.
Dr. Anthony Fauci's testimony before a Senate committee comes the same day Johnson & Johnson announced a phase 3 trial of its COVID-19 vaccine that requires only one dose and does not need to be stored in sub-zero temperatures. It is the fourth large-scale COVID-19 vaccine trial underway in the U.S.
As these trials go on, we predict that sometime by the end of this year, let's say November or December, we will know whether or not these are safe and effective.
Millions of doses of the vaccines are already being produced so that they can be distributed as soon as possible after a vaccine is approved. The FDA is expected to release a tough new standard for emergency authorization of a vaccine in an effort to quell concerns that political pressure may rush a vaccine through.
In the end, FDA will not authorize or approve a vaccine that we would not feel comfortable giving to our families.
The CDC also announced it will spend $200 million to help distribute a COVID-19 vaccine when it is ready. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Currently, 20 states are reporting increases in new coronavirus cases from 2 weeks ago. Now, looking at the latest numbers, in Wyoming, the state reported the 50th death related to COVID-19 yesterday. A Bighorn County man died in the hospital out of state, but it was determined he contracted the virus in Wyoming. There are currently 696 residents who have the virus in the state. More than 3,600 have recovered. Here in Montana, there was another COVID-19 related death reported in Yellowstone County yesterday. The latest victim is a woman in her 60s. Health authorities also report 214 new confirmed active cases, but the overall count has dropped by more than 300. Yellowstone County saw a decline of more than 100 active cases overnight. In court news, there is a new life for a solar power project just north of Billings. The Montana Supreme Court ruled the Public Service Commission illegally undermined Montana Sun's 80-megawatt power plant by denying them the ability to sell their product at a fair price. The plant operators have been trying to arrange a contract with Northwestern Energy for more than 5 years now. So the PSC stepped in to settle the dispute, but the High Court says they set terms that violated the state's renewable power laws. The PSC says if Northwestern is forced to pay more for solar power, it will increase their cost to the customers. Montana Sun officials hope to move forward with contract talks outlined by the ruling. A Billings man is going to prison for the next 10 years for selling meth all over Montana. 41-year-old William Hanson Jr. was handed that sentence yesterday in Great Falls. Back in June, he pleaded guilty to possession with intent to distribute meth. In 2018, Missoula authorities got a tip that Hanson was on his way back from Washington State with drugs. Missoula police pulled him over and found meth in his car. Detectives were already aware Hanson was involved in trafficking the drug in Missoula and Great Falls, and he had an active arrest warrant at the time. Continuing our coverage, we now know who was responsible for crashing a vehicle at Mount View Cemetery, destroying dozens of veteran headstones. Police cited 30-year-old Brad Duggets for reckless driving. Failures were made at the scene of an accident and failure to give notice of a crash. Authorities say Duggets was alone in his vehicle when he entered the graveyard early Sunday morning. The Mount View supervisor says the VA will cover the cost to replace all of the damaged headstones. A Butte police officer was on routine patrol last week, but was suddenly called to an accident where he had to make a life or death decision. MTN's John Amy introduces us to the hero.
Butte police officer Nick Butorovich had to act quickly last week to remove an unconscious woman who was trapped in her overturned vehicle that was fully engulfed in flames. The young officer crawled into the burning cab and had to cut the seatbelt with a sharp blade in order to free the victim. The fire had melted part of the seatbelt, causing a second-degree burn to his right hand.
All I remember really is my actions. I don't remember how I felt. It didn't really matter at the time. All that mattered was that somebody was in danger.
The officer says he was in the right place at the right time.
I don't think I did anything that any other officer wouldn't have done in my situation. I truthfully believe that it would have been the same result if you plug in any other officer from our department or frankly anywhere else.
Officer Butorovich may downplay his actions at this intersection the evening of the crash. The sheriff, however, doesn't hesitate to call the young officer a hero.
He's in the vehicle, the seatbelt's melting. I mean, that's how close it was. It wasn't, he plays it down pretty good. He's not after recognition or anything. He just wants to go back to work, but he's a hero.
In Butte, John Amy, MTN News.
John also tells us the crash victim has been treated and released for her injuries.